On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
We went from a tiny little footprint to being distributed nationwide overnight. We're showing up at gyms and yoga studios or whoever would let us sweat in their place with a cooler of drinks and coupons and doing the most grassroots marketing. Try my product. This is where you can get it. Let me tell you about it. And that's how we did so much of just our early game plan was just meeting people. And I think go to the gym and give them drinks. I'm trying to keep simple things simple. So we did stuff like that. It was really successful.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. I've got Brandon Smith here on the King stage. My brother, Brandon. How you doing?
So Chaz, nice. Happy to be here.
You know, I'm happy that you're here. And, you know, through some conversation back and forth, you're a Kansas Cityan, kind of.
That's the
not anymore, but you know.
Yeah, origin of my company. As I was wrapping up some of my hockey playing days, playing for the Mavericks. Yeah, I spent the better part of 2 years there. Absolutely loved it, and that's where NOOMA was born. So I have some roots there.
Yeah, man. So excited to talk about your company. Obviously, it's got some roots even in your own story of athletics and just sports and that type of a feel. But tell us what kind of company that you have, Brandon.
So we make fitness products, and the origin was an old school sports drink. Currently, we have a sports drink, an energy drink, and then a recovery wellness soda. Started with my brother and I. We were college minor pro hockey players, traveling the world doing it. Like most, most teenage boys who finally like made it. Got free sports drinks, and whether you were a Pepsi school or a Coca-Cola school, it was Powerade or Gatorade. And it was very exciting because you could drink as much as you want. And you've been watching the commercials your whole life. This is it.
That's right.
And at that time, I was really starting to like just understand sugar in my diet, stuff like that. We'd have nutritionists talking to us, talking about how much added sugar you have. And for those who actually want to watch the video here, you'll probably see like I'm already have some perspiration. I'm one of the sweatiest people you're ever gonna meet. Always cramping, dehydrated, like all that kind of stuff. So I would drink like 5-6 Gatorades a day. So 250 grams of added sugar just to try and stay hydrated. And then my brother used to actually get acid reflux from Gatorades, just from the pH of the sports drink. So our aha moment or where we thought we were understanding this was my sweat and Jared's acid reflux was like, can we make this healthy, low sugar, easy on your stomach, easy, like, and that was the seed of the idea. Yeah. It's grown a lot since then and a million turns, but that's where it was. And the kind of the founding story and the Kansas City roots were, I think this is the 12-13 hockey season was the last one that I played in, but I'm in Kansas City playing for the Mavericks. My brother's actually in Anchorage, Alaska, playing in like the same, like kind of like minor league circuit. Sure. And our other, founding partner, more like I would say like advisor who helped us got going, chairman of the board type. He's in Southern California. So we're working, and it's actually like my first experience using like a Google Drive and some copy paste. Like we're like using the drive and doing stuff all over the place. And that the minor league hockey schedule was practice at 11 and home by like 11:30 noon. So there was time, and a lot of guys played Xbox and some guys were like, I'm going to do something else. So, in the spare time, we were, like I said, kind of sidepreneuring this about just like understanding some marketplace and idea where we wanted to take it. And we're just, sending stuff back and forth between those 3 cities I was mentioning and had some time to kind of lay some of the groundwork before we took the plunge.
That's awesome, man. I love the fact that you put a bunch of work in before you jumped. It doesn't mean that you can't, jump before doing work. It just means that you were taking advantage of the time. I love that part of the story. Okay, so you've got this real need. It actually has always blown my mind when you look at the Gatorades and the Powerades of the world, and you're like, wait a second, this is not good for me at all, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so many bad things about this. And so the same team that brought in probably the nutritionist to help you become a great athlete is the same team that brought in the Powerade and the Gatorade. Neither here nor there, I digress.
Yeah.
It's like
right.
there's a need for companies like yours. Let's just leave it like that.
Totally.
Okay, so you create this product. It's out of physical need for you, for your brother. It makes sense. There's probably other people that are functioning like you and need this. Okay, great. My question to you is, what's the deep burning desire of Brandon? Like, really, why are you doing this? I understand functionality, why you did it, but
So that's a really good question. And part of that story was, I think the really short answer is it was accidental. And it was, so at that time I was, 25, 26, went from playing college to playing minor pro hockey, hadn't had like a real job, and was getting to the point where I was like, I love this. I'm probably not going to make the NHL. And in terms of pro sports standards, I was, 25 at the AA level. So I kind of was what I was. Like I wasn't really going to go up at that point. So I was studying for the GMATs, and I was like, okay, I think I may go back to school and maybe be like, they have like a lot of like grad assistant programs where maybe I could coach some hockey, take some classes and get an MBA, or I was just thinking about those things. And my brother just was a second semester senior and had just taken an entrepreneurship class and was just had this like, had a class project doing something, and actually it wasn't specifically on this, but just had this like this kind of itch burning in him. And he had just done his like Wall Street banking internship and he hated it. And he was really into entrepreneurship, and I'm basically looking there with all this time in my hands. And I was studying for the GMATs, and I am not a standardized test person, didn't like it at all. And he's like, hey, I think I want to do this. And I would say, to answer your question, like, it was just motivating and addicting and exciting. It's just what it was in the beginning. And that's how I got started on it. And the story that I tell in those early days is we had for minor league hockey, AA level, but for me, a big deal. We're like in our game 7 of the semifinals of our playoffs.
yeah.
And we just in our minds had some like deadline that we had to like finish this business plan. I think it had to do with some funding. So initial like getting us off the ground with our one partner. He's like, I need to see our business plan and what we're going to do to take this thing live. And I had game 7 of our semifinals, and I stayed up till 3 a.m. of like the biggest game of the year. And I guess now it feels like it's almost funny, like this arbitrary deadline, but I was just addicted to, it was just so interesting and exciting. And I just wanted to just like, it was intrinsically motivating, exciting. And that's what got me out of bed doing it. And then, years later, I would say like, I have, and I know it's something you've talked about in your pods and your videos, of just like the persistence. And I think just kind of getting to in business. And then I guess coming out of this hockey career where for my whole life, I started skating. I went to a church social when I was 3 and saw the guys out there, thought the gear was sweet. I had no hockey in my family, but saw it, played hockey from the time I was like 3 until I was in my mid 20s competitively, and was never like the most naturally skilled, but made it because I was a grinder and was willing to work my butt off. Like, and that was kind of like how I carved out a niche. My brother did the same thing. And as we have launched this business and been in this business, a lot of that same just like deep down competitive, like, I don't give a shit, I'm not giving up, like how I operate and wiring is, like there are many days where it sucks, and that goes on a lot, but I just have this like, I'm not stopping, I'm keeping going. And like that now is a lot of like the driving on it too.
I love how you gave the picture of early on and now, and and as you said early on, that obsession, that like that intrinsic, like, oh, I just want to get after it and win. It keeps you up until 3 a.m. and then you were up at 6 for practice, ready to roll.
Yeah.
The freshest you've ever been, only on 3 hours of sleep. We all know what those nights feel like. And we also know the nights that were just like, I can barely peel myself from the pillow,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think having both of those along the way provides us the mindset of, or at least the gratitude perspective, right?
Yes. And, and I feel like now I'm in such a different phase. Like, so 10 years later, married, have a toddler, and my wife is a resident at the Cleveland Clinic. So we're finishing that. So her schedule sucks just as much as mine. We're raising a kid, you know,
Yep. It's a totally different tough.
different tough. Baby gets COVID, but we both got shit to do in the morning. You know what I mean? There's all these different types of distraction and training. And I think you kind of mentioned that gratitude that at the end, like I get to work on this, and it's like
Yeah.
I still feel incredibly privileged that I still get to carve out my own life that I want to live and the business that I want to work on. I'm still getting to do it, and there's plenty of other distractions and stuff that'll just make you want to stay in bed. Like, oh, baby was up from 2 to 4 last night crying. It's just like I have but I just get the opportunity to work on this, and
100%.
it's a totally different perspective. And yeah, I'm still grateful for the opportunity that I have.
The gratefulness and the obsession, really, it's a burning, like, I need to win. And for you, NOOMA is the outlet of that. And for us listening to your story here today, our outlet is, our business or our family, just like yours. But I think it's the realization of, like, man, I get to do this. Like you just said it.
Yeah.
I don't have to do this. I get to do this. Wow.
Yeah.
And that stuff will wake you up before the alarm clock, even on the days where baby was.
Yeah. And I feel like most businesses, we've had our fair share of near-death experiences, where,
Interesting way to put it, but yes.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Like, and I'll share some of the stories. Like we were in the early, I keep saying early days, but I'll probably say, as we launched our product, put yourself back in 13, 14 shoes. And at the time, a lot of the advice of the smart people in the room, and I kind of prefaced that, like, I was as raw and as new to this as you could. So I was trying to talk to smart people and just, hey, how can we start doing what you think is smartest? And the direction was, you need to be doing this in retail is where you're going to live. And at that time, it was almost like people were laughing at people who wanted to sell drinks online. And I'm sure you can tell I'm setting this up like we're an e-commerce now.
Totally.
But so we spent so much of our time and our hustle trying to just bang our head down that path, like super, super, super hard.
Yeah.
And we, again, like one of the things you had kind of led with was like, hey, there was a need for this. And we understood and learned how to tell this story, creating, what the need was to a lot of these grocery buyers. And the way we found out about how we're going to do this, I think the one thing we knew about our product, the consumer was going to live, is that we were from day one thinking we were going to be positioning this as an elevated better for you compared to the Gatorade Powerade set. So instead of that target being like 15 to 22-year-old, generally male, but they're actually doing a better job being more inclusive, male, female, but sports was what about, like, basketball, sticks, championships, whatever. Like, that's what they're about. It's like, we're going to be a little more adult, a little more fitness, a little more, boot camps, running, CrossFit, yoga, someone who no longer cares if, athlete du jour holds it up. Someone who's just like, I'm an adult. I want to put less crap in my body. I want to so like, that's what we thought. That's what we think we were going to position ourselves. So we were able to go and tell that story well to our grocery buyers, and we're actually getting like too much traction and too much acceptance from those buyers. And our distribution grew from outside of just the Midwest, Cleveland, to nationwide super quickly. And us not really knowing what we were doing and all that stuff, and telling our investors like, hey guys, we got nationwide. You want to do this? And everyone's like, hell yeah, let's do it. And we went from a tiny little footprint to being distributed nationwide overnight. And we got to this place where a lot of the things that made us successful in the early days in terms of product market fit and brand awareness were really based on we call it the NOOMA Bro hustle. It's me and my brother. We're showing up at gyms and yoga studios or whoever would let us sweat in their place with a cooler of drinks and coupons, and doing the most hand on hand grassroots marketing. Try my product. This is where you can get it. Let me tell you about it. And I would always, you can tell I love talking to people and get all excited about our story. And that's how we did so much of our early game plan was just meeting people. And I think
Yep.
one of the things that we always talk about is like, if we were a tea company or something, it's like, where would I go meet people who love tea? I don't know, but I know people who need sports drinks. They're at the gym. So go to the gym and give them drinks. I'm trying to keep simple things simple. So we did stuff like that. It was really successful. And then all of a sudden got to the point where we said, hey, we can go everywhere. We said, hell yeah, let's do it. So we put drinks everywhere, and we no longer had this strategy, the mechanism that created awareness.
Right.
And then we tried to chase our tail with different ways of how we're going to create that awareness. And we were replicating things that we hadn't done and making just crappy assumptions.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then not a long way of landing this plane. Like to those near that experiences, we had to be like, guys, we're going to run out of money and our investors and all the things that we're trying to do. This path is not working, and had to really like swallow our pride hard about. It was always fun to just, hey, we're in all the Whole Foods and we're in all these Walmarts and we could list all these things, and it felt awesome to tell people,
That's right.
Trade show, we have all this distribution, and it made you feel important, but it was really bad business and it really wasn't good for us to be able to keep this thing around. And then really had that understanding and realization that if we want to, if we want to keep doing this and have the opportunity to do this, like, we need to be humble. We need to take our medicine. We need to restructure our business. We need to do all these things necessary to keep this going. And, way back to where it's like, I'm grateful that like we did those things, and I'm still here. And I'm still grinding on this business, and had, probably that's one of our new, it was like, I've had these like bursts in our businesses that we've just never knew and had to make these tough choices, but we're still here. We're still growing. We're still fighting. And it's been a journey.
Yeah. Well, you just gave us all kinds of good stuff. So let's get to work. Inside of what you just talked about, someone might be thinking, well, if you were in all these stores and shipping nationwide, like that sounds like a huge success. Why did you have to change? So give us the detail there. And then following that, I want to know a little bit about how you made the change, but why first?
So why? So it was really, at the end of the day, it was understanding unit economics, profit margins, channel profitability, and all just like, again, one of the things that you talk about a lot, just like core fundamentals of business and understanding. I make a drink and sell it to the grocery store. Who needs to touch it along the way? How much does it cost me to make it and get it there? How much do I make? And then some of the things that were our big misses were the cost to support it and then create that demand in those markets.
Right. So just to clarify for the listener, just because it was in a shop in California doesn't mean that there was interest from somebody walking into that store to buy it.
Exactly. And most grocery stores have between 40 and 50,000 items in there. So and
landing the shelf is only step one.
That's the right. I've only sold one person. That's the grocery buyer who decides they want to bring it in. I need people in the store that actually know something about this that want to buy it. And I had no awareness. And, my brother loves this saying. It's like, you're always the hero in your own story. And I make this sports drink that's better for you. It's like, everyone's going to be so excited about this. But just the idea that like, there's 50,000 products in this store that people are just going to walk up without me.
Let's be honest.
And randomly just find mine because it was just the exact thing at the right time. And even if you're in the market, most people like have just their blinders on, walk up and grab the same couple things and head out. And they're not in this,
exploratory mode
to just discover something. And
that's right.
All of that hard work and assumption that we talked about, the NOOMA Bros showing up with coupons and coolers, telling people about our product and why it was different. That was where we were finding the right consumers. Yeah. And at that time, whether or not you wanted to go buy it at that gym we were meeting at, but we always gave you a coupon to our local grocery chains and stuff like that here. And that's what actually made those numbers in those early days look so appealing to those buyers who were like, wow, I can extrapolate this everywhere.
Exactly.
So we had the demand piece solved, and we didn't really internalize why we had these results here and not over there.
Yeah.
So we started doing all these other things, like why those unit economics didn't work elsewhere was we were doing all sorts of things, like for us, like paying for in-store demos. Like we thought that was going to be a good thing, but for us selling a healthy sports drink, unless you were coming from the gym and actively sweaty or probably really hungover, wasn't a good time. It wasn't the right occasion for use. Where if I went to this gym class with you and you're all sweaty and you finish, like, here's a sports drink.
You're
That's
ready.
the exact right time.
That's right.
So we
So good.
were doing all these things that we thought in a vacuum made sense for demand about how we're going to go and create it. They didn't. And there was a lot of these just for us understanding the rules of the game of how they were played on a regional versus national level. And,
Right.
and some of these retailers just to, if you wanted to run a promo and you're in like one little region, cool, there's no admin fees. But now all of a sudden you're nationwide and you want to run a promo, just the admin fees to change the tags in the stores across the country are $12,000. And you haven't even started funding the promo. And now
you don't even know if the promo is going to work.
Yeah, I know the promo is going to work. So all of a sudden before we even start, we're in the hole. We're running like 6 promos a year. So now we're in the whole 60K on that, 70K, something like that. And then you're funding the promo. And in the early days, we're like, hey, we want to run, and I don't know if it was self-serving, but I think the strategy behind it, hey, the buyer goes, you should run shallow more often promos. So we're running these promos, and when one ends, one starts in another 6 weeks. So all of a sudden our buyers start getting trained that only buy it on deal, and all of these
terrible model.
Yeah. And all of a sudden we're chasing our tail, trying to create demand. We've trained our buyers to devalue the product. And we're doing all of these things that are just not the right core fundamentals of how to run a successful business.
Yeah.
And, I understand how we got there, but in terms of as we started seeing it play out and needed to make that, I keep using this kind of idea, but it was a very it was very humbling to just say and realize like,
got to do it different.
We got to do it different. And it was some of I remember just giving presentations to a couple investors that like, we're going to judge our success of this company about how well we do in these couple key retailers. And we failed at it. And we were seeing, and we were understanding why we failed, but we were also seeing that was a really bad KPI and a bad thing to go tell them, because we were seeing like, we have all these other things that are an incredibly viable path forward. And for us, it was e-com, and it kind of lined up with, it was already happening and we were going there before the pandemic. And for us,
right,
as the pandemic happened, people were becoming a lot more willing, especially with grocery was a category that changed late, that people just always kind of told themselves, I like to see and touch and feel my groceries. But especially for stuff like us that's shelf stable, people became a lot more comfortable buying those things online.
Yep.
And we're going that direction. It's becoming viable. And we put all of this effort and focus into this one direction that wasn't working, and found another, pivoted. And as I kind of hinted a little about just understanding just different channel profit margins and stuff like that. We were making like, maybe $1.50 a case selling it to the grocery store, and we're making $8-9 on our website. It's just like, well,
yeah,
seems like I sell a lot. We acquire customers better online, and we were trying to run ads, just be like, hey, so-and-so in Phoenix, go buy it at the grocery store. And we need you to shop at that one or two grocery stores. Like, oh, we can just tell you to buy it here.
Or you just click right here.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that you've said here in the story that I want to make sure that the listeners follow along, because you're given really, really good business stuff. And so number one, the ability for you to marginalize or understand your margins in a way to where you could actually say, you know what, this sucks.
Yeah.
Because the vanity, you mentioned it, the vanity numbers get us all, whether that's revenue, whether that's cases sold, whether the fact that I'm in all the Whole Foods, like you said, like whatever that vanity metric is, we all like it because it feels good, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's no money being made, that's like the real, like looking in the mirror going, is it doing what we said it was going to do, even though I'm in all the places, or whatever the vanity metric is? So that's number one. Number two is the reason why it worked for you in the gym. You said all this, so I'm just kind of repeating it, but I want to make sure it's hit home for the listener. You were there telling the story, giving the sample, being able to help them understand the difference, like all of those very, very like precise things to the exact right person. You probably weren't talking to the 18-year-old who really didn't care about the next level fitness. You were talking to the 25, the 35, the 45, who cared and probably had the money to care about the next level fitness. Okay, fine. Well, how does that translate into your two models here? Well, when it's direct to consumer or when it's e-commerce, you can tell the story. I loved what you said right below that too, is that it's all about the right timing. And so again, with e-commerce, you can be really, really precise on location and timing. And there's a bunch of marketing efforts that you guys have done that I'm sure you just dialed this in. But for the listener, I want you to walk away with here is like, he wasn't just selling sports drinks. He realized he was selling a next level fitness opportunity.
Organic, no added sugar, every blah, blah, blah.
So the person who cares about that.
Yes, exactly.
And that person understood his story and they could read it online. They were sophisticated enough to point, click, ship. In fact, that person, so probably someone like us, doesn't really want to go to the store.
That buying patterns change a ton.
Yeah, I don't want to go to the store. Even before the pandemic, I ain't got time to go to the store. I care about fitness, but I'm busy. I need your drink to help me, right?
Yep, absolutely.
The way it rolls. Dude, so good. You gave us both the good and the bad decision all kind of wrapped up into one in there. Coming out of that, what I really want to know is how do you make decisions today? We've talked a lot about the early days. What about today? You're running a successful business. I know you don't make everything perfect as far as good decisions, but what's the formula for you now?
It's a fantastic question. So we use, do the best we can. We use our own version of EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, and we're doing, sitting down, setting year-long goals and quarterly metrics and check-ins of how we're trying to do that. Setting good yearly goals and quarterly goals and checkpoints is very difficult, but we're doing everything we can to make sure that they're as actionable and as yes, no, here's a number and then trying to evaluate ourselves against it. So that's a big part of what we do. And I would say we've been doing that for the better part of 3-4 years. And we have kind of a local group of business owners, most guys plus or minus our age, mid 30s that are kind of same revenue rate ish, ballpark enough that dealing with the same kind of problems. So that's been, and we all kind of collectively did it together and had some accountability together to help do that. So
awesome.
So that's one big part of like, okay, how are we just strategically thinking about some of the things? And I think some of the things that we have really embraced recently from a just understanding about where we're going is we are further understanding and just the concept of just like what expenses really mean and what we're investing in to grow. And I had one of these guys just tell me this quote and I didn't believe it till way too late, but it still helps. Is just like, keep your business simple, kid. And the more that we were trying to invest and chase things that didn't help us grow. And, if we're making, just big round numbers, if like, in a channel after all this stuff to deliver it, if we're only making 20% profit, then I need to spend $1 and make $5 to return it. And we just really I didn't deep down understand that. Like I knew it conceptually, but I didn't deep down understand how we were spending. So I think the real core of it is that my brother and I live more on the finance side. He lives more on the marketing side. But as we come together and just review where we're at in our business, and we just carve out time on our calendars to just get together and talk about just what's, high level going on. It's being very detailed on our P&L about just like, it's line item by line item. Just like, are we sure that this still needs to be in here? And just being meticulous with that. And it's not like we kill everything immediately, but we highlight things pretty quickly and say like, we need to keep an eye on this. And it needs to be as part of our rocks in the next 90 days, or it needs to have some sort of reason to fix this, or it's not going to stay. So
you just dropped some super easy but complicated math on us. So I want to go back to that. I can just through our conversation, I can tell that you're a meticulous individual, even just the way that you speak, you're very thorough. And so the listener may not be. And so I just want to point this out because so on that 20% example, make $5. What that means is that of the 5, I profited 1.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna invest $1, but that it has to return 5 to even just be a 1-to-1 return on investment.
Yes.
A wash.
Yes. And then for me, like then my cost of goods and like for us, we ship heavy, we ship water. You know what I mean? Water and flavor, but like we're shipping boxes of water at the end of the day. They're heavy. And it's not like we're selling iPhones where it's a $600 ring. We're selling a $30 case of drinks. And yes, that's expensive but it's not 600 and it costs, $15 to ship. So if you start dialing back like all these numbers about like what I'm actually keeping in my pocket at the end of the day, once this is delivered to my customer, and then if my cost of acquisition to Facebook, or whatever source I'm using, if it's an influencer or just standard ads, all that kind of stuff, and you start backing out the dollars I put in, and we know we're not always going to be breaking even on the first customer, but just also understanding the quality of the customers and their likelihood to repeat. We're definitely a repeat purchase business where we're not going to be first profitable, but we do really need to know about like, are we, and if we're going to go in the hole on customers, like how far in the hole and how much and the quality of customer to keep them coming back. So I know that took you off a little bit of just the math on that, but just, there's that other portion about knowing, okay, the things that, as we highlight, like, okay, we want to invest in this. And we know that, hey, we're not going to make it up with the first web, but we know if we get customers from this kind of traffic source, that they're good for $300 of purchases a year. So we're going to be out on average across that whole cohort because they came from a real, a traffic source that we have enough data on, that we know what they act like. Okay, cool. So we know we can go in a little bit because, we're in the whole 4 months, but over the course, 4 months to break even. And of course the year we're profitable this much. Okay, cool. That works. But it's just really, really knowing like those numbers so well that has been the core of all of like just why we've been able to survive and the changes we've made, and just being so dialed into that is
super important.
How you can run a business.
Yeah, especially in a super competitive, lower margin space where you're not selling $600 or $6,000 or a $60,000 item.
Yeah,
those things matter. And so you service tens of thousands of clients where someone selling $60,000 of something is going to sell only maybe a couple hundred. And so even that, like it's a little different, like a lot of less opportunity, but more margin each time. So you got to take advantage of the margin when you do it, because you're not going to have 60,000 options.
I wish.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a completely different business. I think the math there, I used to tell this to salespeople all the time, like, okay, so if you had, a 10% closing ratio and you had 30 prospects in your pipeline, okay, so that would mean that there should be 3 deals in there. And so I always give the example of you make 1 phone call and you close the deal. So you got 29 prospects left, right? And they all shake their head. Yep. And no, I already told you have a closing ratio of 10%. And so even though you still have 29 prospects in there, we have to get rid of 10 of them. So you actually only have 20. And so this is where people get caught, whether it's in sales or in business, is that I think I'm getting $5, but that $5 only really actually means 1 to me. And if I get underneath that for too long, that you just all of a sudden you're gone and you didn't even know why.
Totally. And like that was a lot of the first near death was a lot of that. It was just like, wow, we look at all these numbers, all these stores, all these sales, and
how are we not surviving?
How are we not surviving? And how are we not surviving? And how's it getting worse month over month?
Right.
It wasn't understanding those really just key fundamentals.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go over to my KPI question. You mentioned earlier that you had a couple of maybe bad KPIs in that story that you were telling. What is the one KPI that you would track forever and ever if you could only pick one?
Oh, man. So
I asked the data guy to limit it to one. I know.
I know. I think I would be tracking at this point. I'm looking at a ratio, just a profitability ratio off of our website, which is just our key. This is the blocking and tackling of where we want to be driving the majority of our traffic. So on my fully landed costs of what it, between whether cost to deliver the package, cost of goods sold, taking into account some things like on average, what's our like average ticket rate? How much are we like to like serve an average order? Like what % of our orders are actually going to generate a ticket, needs to response? How much, like all figuring out like every cost that I could put in there. My cost of my boxes. Do I need to be getting a better box or a worse box? And for us, selling expensive sports drinks, people get really pissed if their $35 box of sports drinks comes damaged and leaky. So, okay, do we need a box that costs a quarter more, 50 cents more? Like putting and knowing all of those types of things into that number to know exactly off of my website, what percent of sale, as I just can always keep having this rough number. Okay, when I check my Shopify every day, here's the number. What percent of it is actually in my pocket? Like what can I actually count on that? And that's that ratio that I would be looking to just know. Like if I had one thing that just could tell me all the time what's going on, that's the number.
Well, you did a great job of actually explaining the reason even why I asked the question. It's not like we only get to pick one. Obviously, there's many that we track, but you did the math for us, or you did the ladder. Like if you know this one, then what it tells you is a synopsis of all these others. And it's not that you need to do that in a business, but what I have found, what's super helpful, if I can quickly look at one singular number, I know like I'm heading in the right direction or I'm heading in the wrong direction. Now, of course, I need to dig in from there.
Yep.
But I can't work on the business if I don't have a singular one or two or three high level things where I can like be watching all the time. And then as soon as it's off, then I'm in. I don't have to be in unless, otherwise indicated.
And we try and we have a scorecard that we use and try and update it on a quarterly basis. And there are some drill downs for each department, but the purpose is exactly what you said, is that, on that scorecard, I think there's seven numbers. And the idea is you look at the scorecard and you know nothing else of what happened in the last month. I know exactly what happened in this business. And that's the idea. So getting down from 7 to 1 was hard, but that's how
okay. I'll let you keep your 7.
Yeah,
don't worry.
That's how we try and think about it. And that's the one as me as the finance guy who, as I'm trying to roll it up and, I was like, oh, is it the acquisition stuff? It's like, no, I need to know this one. That's the one at the end of the day that
Good.
I would take with me.
Brandon, what resource, book, podcast, event, anything like that you would recommend for a business owner listening right now that's helped you?
So this is so I listen to, I listen to stuff all the time, but the one that I actually just like the most, it's not even the most in depth, but to me, it's just a very nice high level. I listen to NPR's Kyra's Doll Marketplace. I listen to that almost every day. It's 30 minutes. It's a quick hitter. Have my AirPods in. And I think the reason that I like that one so much is it's a 101 level macroeconomic, generally US. And it does have some worldwide stuff. And for me, I'm buying coconut water from the Philippines. So knowing about backups in the port of LA last year, that was making my life suck. Yeah. But just, I like just hearing stories about people talking about just business. And I think the reason I like that one so much is that most of it's not actually about stuff that's specifically mine, but there's always just little stories of how people see the world and what they're just dealing with on a day-to-day level that I just have always just found myself, for years, just listening, because one, I think it's just enjoyable. But I always learn stuff about different people's businesses. And I always think it just rubs off in some way that oh, you know what? I've seen something like that, or how's that in my business? And I have a situation or conversation where I've learned something about that. So that's why
Absolutely.
and I like current and daily stuff like that too. So
yeah, it keeps you informed, or at least you feel informed.
Yeah.
We feel in control, whether we are or not. We can at least position ourselves to feel that way.
Totally.
What do you've kind of already mentioned this a little bit, but I want to dig into it. Your feelings around networking and or masterminding with other entrepreneurs specifically, more than just maybe listening, but actually, doing the thing.
Yeah. And so we actually have our meeting on the schedule because we were a little slow over the last year. I think we only had one meeting, and we had been going quarterly, and
Sure.
and I think that's the reason. My point is that it's so necessary, and it's one of those things that it's always just there's a million excuses always about why you can't do it.
100%.
I got this, I got travel, I got this, and the reason why to me it's so important and so necessary is that one, we've had the same group of people that for almost 6-7 years now. So there's an incredibly high level of trust, empathy, openness that you can say whatever you need to there. Guys talk about more than just business, but it's mostly just business, but people can bring personal, people can bring whatever they need. And there's enough time to see, when you tell someone you're going to do something and you can come back and a year later, you can actually have you had a year to do this. Where are we at?
right. That's right.
But it's so important, and I would say so hard. And if you haven't gone from 0 to 1, or even if it's you've been to 1 to I don't know, like 1 to 10, but like you need to do 11. And it's always so hard, or in your mind, you can give yourself so many reasons why, like, oh, I can't do it this month. I got too much this, too much that. But
Right.
every time that we go,
Every time.
my brother and I always walk in, and we go as a 2-for-1. We always just walk away like, damn, I learned, like, this is our, and it's always, we generally try and do it around, like, planning for next quarters and things like that. We're not,
Sure.
no, but like, we're always things like this, like, I understand my quarter so clearly. And especially when you have to get in there and like explain it to people who
That's
are
right.
your peers, who are going to hold you accountable, and explain to them, like, in a minute, about why this is important, why we're going to dedicate our time to this. So like, so why are we doing this and not that? And you have to like
Right.
really explain it and dig in. Like, it's so hard. It's hard, but so valuable. And it really forces you to prioritize and understand like what you need to be doing with your business. So
Yeah. Yeah. You've given a real perspective of the agitation of a group or a mastermind. Napoleon Hill talks about this in Think and Grow Rich. It's actually why I started Gathering the Kings, because I felt like a lot of masterminds were either like an event or, surface level. A lot of the big corporate ones, it's like, it's good, but like it never really went anywhere. I never had anybody saying, well, but why? Why is that important? Like what you were just talking about. It's the agitation of one mind to another, or 10 or 12 or 30 or 40, whatever the number is, man. And when you walk away from a lot of agitation, there's a lot of fireworks going on. And you're like, man, not only do I have a full tank to just go run again, I've got some ideas that could propel us to the next level. Obviously, there's implementation that's still left to do, but good stuff. I got a question for you. It's interesting because you're in business with your family, but I also know that you've got a wife and a toddler that you mentioned earlier. So my question around family is this. I believe that there is no such thing as work-life balance. In fact, what I believe in is work-life obsession. And we're obsessed in our businesses. We just got done talking about that for the last half hour.
Yep.
How have you been able to obsess about your family, and maybe even, especially with your brother being your business partner, how do you do that in addition to the business at the same time, all in?
So with my brother, our Venn diagram is like the circles are almost like exactly the same. And for us, like a lot of our childhood, I just mentioned hockey's like, so we're now like the, 36-year-olds that play men's league hockey together. And like, it's like, we still have that like workout
glory days.
We're still right in the mix of it. So we still like have this, compete hard in business, then like playing sports and working out together. It's like, that's a lot of our super tight time. Our mom lives in the area, so we're still super close with her. We regularly see her, just dinners on the weekends or things like that. So that's a big part of us. And I would say, that part of our relationship that's outside of the business, that's almost some of the easiest stuff we do, because we're, like I said, kind of the core of our business has always been like this fitness place. And that's what started us. And that still burns like hard. And we still love doing that. We work out together almost every day. And so that just takes its place well. The relationship with my family in this house here, my wife, my toddler, that's super difficult is the honest answer. And for me running a small business, she's, like I said, a resident, finishing that stuff. It's like her schedule sucks as much as I am, and oftentimes like she'll come home and she's actually dealing with life and death stuff there, comes home and is spent to a level that, I think I've been spent dealing with like bad suppliers or stuff like that. And she's like, someone died on the table today. And then you're just like, and understanding like, wow, there's a level of just perspective and empathy that like has grown a ton, where oftentimes, I feel like you're the star of your own show. It's just like, man, my day was, I can't believe it today. And then coming home with that. So what we've tried to do, doesn't always happen, but I've really tried to do it, is just try and make sure like daily, but doesn't happen daily, but if we at least try, maybe do it 5 times a week, is that there is just an individual time after the baby goes to bed, us, no devices, like, unless like we're gonna clean our closet, we're gonna build a shelf, or we're just gonna do like these things where it's just like, it's us together doing a thing, and we're gonna just take our time to just not, and like, I'm actually like, I don't want to sit here and watch a Netflix show with you. I want to actually just like have no TV on, no nothing, and we're going to do something together. And having that, just an actual time that we're like making a real effort consistently to just connect, has been challenging. And like that for both of us, like there's never enough time and you have to put in work to do it. But our relationship's so much better when we do.
Yeah. I love the authenticity there. I have yet to interview a person that says, yeah, we got that one all wrapped up. In fact,
Yeah.
we have no room for improvement in this area.
It's real, for sure.
It's real. Okay. I got one last question here for you.
Yep.
I want to know, if you had an opportunity to whisper in the younger Brandon's ear, what would you say?
Oh, so I guess I'm going to give a business answer here, because I think there's a lot of these other like life ones that I could give, but I'm going to give a business one.
Sure.
It would be know your expenses when I started this. And then if it was just going to be a high level life one, my answer would just be enjoy the moment. And from the business perspective, I wasted time, money, lots of it, not knowing my expenses and what they actually meant. And you know, if I were able to restart it, I think I'd be so much better, because I have, you know, I still carry a lot of these scars about these bad decisions we made, but that's all part of it. And if I were to say, you know, on that life, on the life back to Brandon, you know, and I guess I'm using like earlier entrepreneurial days. So, you know, okay, I'm done playing hockey. Now I'm an adult. What are we doing next? And it would be to enjoy just the journey and the ride more. And that, I think a lot of what, you know, has come to define me is just the journey more than the result.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I think that we can all relate to that. I think that even if we've heard that, it's tough to in the moment go, you know what? I'm supposed to enjoy this moment.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's like, tell that to this supplier right now. But it's just like, you know what? Like,
right.
I'm building something hard, and like I said, I get the chance to work on this, and I think what is the
Incredible perspective
part that like not that if you're a banker and love it, then that's good for you. But like, I could be doing a banking job I don't like, and that could be the alternative. You know what I mean?
That's
And
right.
and if I don't have I have the chance to carve my own path and work on something I want to do, and it wouldn't be fulfilling and meaningful and everything if it wasn't hard. And there's going to be all of these constant roadblocks or whatever you want to call them, and that's it. But like how you navigate them, how you work through it, like that's what makes it so rewarding.
Yeah. If we didn't work out so hard, we wouldn't need that really clean fuel.
That's right.
Of a sports drink afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So Brandon, I gotta know, number one, how do we find your products? Tell us your website. Tell us what's on the website. What are we gonna find there? And then of course, how can we connect with you as an entrepreneur?
Cool. So website is drinknooma.com, drinknooma.com. When you get there, what you'll see, we make cleanest fuel on the market, 3 products. Well, 4 of them's out of stock right now. Energy drink, recovery drink, sports drink. And what this is a take on what you kind of, you know, grew up drinking or may see in the market, but in a real clean, simple ingredient way. So our energy drink, organic green coffee bean, we're using on our sports drink, coconut water, pink Himalayan salt. Our recovery drink is cherry juice and turmeric. Across the board, like I said, no added sugar, all organic, just real clean products. And I think when you taste our products, try them out, what you'll see and notice is that, you know, we don't have a cotton candy or you know, just flavors that
don't add value.
Yeah, don't add value. They're just like, well, this is obviously crap. These are real ingredient products, and that's what our company's built on. I would recommend, we have a sampler pack that's just one of everything. You try them all out. I made a promo code. So
hey, yo.
Yeah. So if you go over to our website, I'm going to use King 30, and for first purchases, 30% off your first order. We'll keep it open for a month after the show runs, so you can get a chance to check them out. And I'd love to just, you know, hear your feedbacks on the product. We're always, I mean, feedback on products has been so key for us over the years. So please let me know what you think. We're always trying to get better on that. Then in terms of, like I said, that's where you can find the business. Me is generally the best for me. So, Brandon Smith, NOOMA, that you'll be able to find me there. Send me a message. Happy to connect. I'm not super active on Twitter or just other socials. So
Yeah, that's okay. We'll put all that in the show notes. And just to recap here, you got to go to drinknooma.com to get the promo King 30. It's going to get you 30% off. I love when guests do this because it gives us an opportunity to partner with you. And I'll be getting a sample pack myself and seeing what we can do with this product, because we love clean stuff. My wife more than me, but that's okay. I'm on the bandwagon. Don't worry.
Yeah.
She drags me along, and I do what I'm told. No.
Smart.
Yes, right. Exactly. Smart. Brandon, you've been incredible. Thank you for just authenticity here today. Not only just the authenticity of your ingredients in your product, I think that's important to note, but just in your story, man. I love what you're doing with your business. I love what you're doing with your family. Even though it's tough, I can get behind a guy like you that's doing it real. So I appreciate you being here. Blessings on your family, blessings on your business, all the things that you touch in 2023. Thanks for being here, brother.
Cool. Thanks, Chaz.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing literally over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings literally exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.